Hi friends, it's Rose here. I've been working on Raindrop Chronicles for 2 years. I built a community on Twitch during that time and got 260 3-hour-long broadcasts under my belt. However, that was only the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. The game is still in the very early stages of development. I've now retired from streaming on Twitch. Streaming and developing a game is a very difficult thing to do. I knew it was time to start a new chapter and leave streams behind to focus on the actual game development. In Devlog 0, I thought it would make a lot of sense to cover everything about my first 2 years of working on Raindrop Chronicles. I'm going to break up those 2 years into 5 stages and talk about how the game has evolved and changed from something that was nothing but just fun with friends into a game I want the world to love and remember. Once upon a time, there was a girl. Her biggest passions were video games and storytelling. She wanted to combine those two passions and make a story-driven RPG game. But with zero budget and zero coding experience, how could she do that? Well, she's doing it. Here it is, Raindrop Chronicles, Roots and Rumours. It's the first episode in an ongoing 2D fantasy RPG video game series about sentient objects trying to find their place in the world. Let's go all the way back to when the story began in 2019. In March 2019 to August 2019, I had my first 20 game development streams. At this time, the streams were not very frequent and my commitment to the game was fairly casual. I started the game because I had the urge to do something fun with a small group of friends I met on the internet. But I also started it for much more than just that. I was at a point in my life where I was ready to challenge myself, to do something I'd never done before, and that was doing creative work in front of others. Before this point, my childhood, my teens, my early 20s, I never have been brave enough to do that. I do think I was extremely imaginative growing up, but I admit to being someone who would press the minimise button on my work on the computer when my teacher would walk past me. Back then, the thought of showing my work to others? No way. So ultimately, this project was born to test my newfound confidence and self-esteem. Choosing the engine for the game was an easy choice. I chose the RPG Maker engine because nostalgia. I've used that engine since I was 12 years old and I just really wanted to relive that really happy feeling it used to leave inside me. My favourite video game of all time, the Way series by Luke Wachholtz, which I played when I was a young teen, was also made on the RPG Maker engine. Massive inspiration to me, that game. The story is absolutely incredible. I've attempted to write several novels and to make several video game demos over the years. Did I see Raindrop Chronicles as my magnum opus? At that time, back in the spring and summer of 2019, absolutely not at all. This game, way too silly for that with a talking barrel and all. At most, it was probably just a warm-up and a bit of practice before I got bold enough to do something more ambitious. In my head at this time, the development of this game was just a massive geek out, a geeky pastime. I imagined it would end up being a clumsy adventure with no structure. The original plan was just to write the story as we go along and just improvise, because that would be fun and a laugh between a group of friends, yeah? Kind of like telling stories around a campfire where everybody takes it in turns. And it wasn't just the story that was rough around the edges. The art was mostly Frankenstein together with all the free-to-use assets I could find. The thought of making money from this game, it being on Steam, that didn't even enter my head at the time. In fact, I would scoff at the thought. The game was too much of a joke to be commercial. September 2019 to December 2019 took me up to 80 streams. This was when I started to stream a bit more frequently, about 3 to 4 times a week. Things were on a high in this period. The community was really growing and I wanted to make the most of it. Growing not so much in quantity, but quality. I met some very awesome and insightful people in this stage. In all honesty, these streams were full of some truly exciting and inspiring conversations. Stream 37 and 69 were turning points in particular for me. It ignited something in me that made me realise that this game I'm making, it doesn't need to just be a joke game. This is when I started to take the game a little bit more seriously. Yeah, there may be some very outlandish humour with barrels and other objects talking that make it look like a joke, but there's a lot of philosophical themes under the surface, such as existentialism and everybody's need to be loved. If it wasn't for those conversations, this fire that lit up in here may never have been ignited in the first place. Maybe it would have. After all, I've always been very passionate about writing stories and making games. But I do feel I owe a lot to those conversations, and I'm very grateful for those people that saw me on their computer screens one day and decided to click my stream. It was the very end of this stage when the mascots of the game were conceived. Myself and the community had so much fun creating these characters that it didn't take long for us to become obsessed with them, just because they were so charming. January 2020 to June 2020 took me up to 150 streams. I started to take pride in what was being built and cared more about spending time on it and making it look nice. I even spent an entire month making a website for the game in this period. I took more time to find suitable assets and edit them so they looked as good as possible. I fell head over heels in love with the process of creating scenes and pulled off some mega ambitious animations and effects that are very time consuming and difficult to achieve in the RPG Maker engine. I had tons of fun stretching the engine as far as I was able to and thinking of little tricks and hacks to achieve the vision I wanted. Since the end of last year, when I experienced that turning point and realised there was more substance to the game than I originally thought, I started to spend time getting deep into character development. We spent a lot of time discussing things like character alignments, tropes, and internal conflict. I mean, how could I resist spending so much time on that when the characters we created were so adorable and charming? Over these months, I also spent a lot of time crafting lore for the game from the amazing ideas we had. I even spent a few days putting together a lore video for everyone to watch on YouTube. The whole thing was narrated by me and had some really cool imagery and stuff. I was super proud of it. Those that watched it even started to become as addicted to the lore as me. Charming characters, addictive lore. I was starting to realise the potential the game actually had at this point. I decided I didn't want the story to be the unstructured chaos it used to be anymore. I wanted it to be a real story. A good one. And in my heart, I truly believed it could be. July 2020 to November 2020 took me up to 200 streams. By this period, the game had become very important to me. It wasn't until several months down the road that I fully came to terms with the fact that the game was now the complete opposite of the casual endeavour it started out as. I hadn't actually fully processed that at this point, but what I did know is how much it meant to me, and that I'd spend many nights in bed thinking about the story and lore and the characters. I knew they were a part of me now. Working on an epic fantasy, creating an entire entire continent populated with potentially hundreds of NPCs. The variety of places and all those lives living in them, each with their own stories to uncover. It's exciting and fills me with serotonin like no other. I had a lot of ideas that needed to be unpacked. I had so much to discuss with my community, so I hosted Story Suggest-a-thon events. They were a series of live streams where we would discuss everything to do with the story. These were some of the most fun streams I'd ever had, and they were extremely valuable for the game. December 2020 to July 2021 took me up to 260 streams. Dang, this is the final stage. I really leveled up here. I overhauled the game in so many ways. It all started in stream 200 when I made the decision to completely redesign the character sprites and switch to taller ones. My gradual increase in love for the game led me to wanting it to stand apart from all the other RPG Maker games out there with the small chibi style. Not long after that, in stream 209, I rebuilt my original custom hero creator. It took a lot of time to find the right system, but all the hard work paid off because we now have a new custom hero creator that is far more dynamic than the old one. What makes it so amazing is that it layers up behind the scenes, which means your hero will be more animated and expressive. And you'll be able to have changeable weapons and clothing in-game. In the old one, your hero would be nothing but a boring blank-faced cardboard cutout because it wasn't layerable. And it just wouldn't have been feasible for me to manually edit the hundreds upon hundreds of different flat PNG hero sprites. A while after that, from stream 229 onwards, I just really wanted to make the scenes look more interesting and animated than they currently were. I started teaching myself how to animate. I gave the sprites of our favourite characters a glow up and decided to give the characters more life by having their mouths open when they talk. This led to me spending a lot of time experimenting with sound effects and making distinct letter sounds for the characters when they talk, Undertale style. I also took the very brave step of moving towards having 100% original pixel environment art for the game and deciding to create from scratch myself, which I announced to my community on stream 250. The Frankenstein together free to use assets, although pretty, didn't give me true satisfaction because I knew they weren't mine. The pixel art you see on the screenshots right now is only the base foundation though. The plan is for more details to be gradually added throughout development. Similar to how Concerned Ape approached his asset creation in Stardew Valley, where he slowly improved it over time. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some people out there who thought I was bonkers for attempting such a task and inevitably increasing development time. But honestly, when I look at the old map compared to the new one, I know I could never go back. I'm not daunted by it. I don't allow negative thoughts to occupy a space in my head. You honestly can't. If you're going to pursue a project like this, you need to cut out negative talk. You need to believe you're great and that you can do it. I did have a lot to process in this period, a real lot. I could see very clearly that in order to bring this game to life the way I envisioned, this needed to become a lifetime pursuit for me. I wanted to make sure I approached this level-headed. I asked myself, am I happy to commit myself fully to this? After all, this is a huge project for a solo game developer. It's not a small short game, it's a full-on series. Most people wouldn't attempt it. But I know that I'm not most people. I have absolutely zero interest in rushing something that is truly meaningful to me. I see it as a journey. My lifetime goal, more than anything else, is to create. It's not to travel or have 10 babies, it's to create. I want to look back at this when I'm an old lady and say, wow, I did that. I really couldn't have wished for anything better to have done with my life. So if you give me the choice between making something rushed and mediocre or a slow and carefully crafted masterpiece, I think you know which one I'd pick. Even though I've retired from streaming on Twitch, I still encourage fans to get involved and share their thoughts and ideas on the story, characters, scenes, lore and world as the games are developed. This potentially inspires me to take things in a certain direction if it fits. Anyone can join our community at any time, including you. Discord is our home when it comes to the collaboration side. You can keep an eye on the current and upcoming discussions and join in. You can also pick some super cool roles for yourself and vote on any polls I post to help shape the game. I'll be posting YouTube Dev Diaries every month. They will be the best way to follow the game development journey, so don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/RaindropRPG. It's the only way to gain direct messaging access to me if you wish to ask questions and get in touch. You'll also get to feast your eyes on what I've been working on behind the scenes and get to see sneak peeks before anyone else. Thank you so much to Azrael Studios, Fantasia and Mr. Radu for being VIP Patreons this month. The three of you are awesome for doing that and I couldn't be more grateful for it. Thank you to each one of you and my other patrons for believing in me and Raindrop Chronicles. My savings and contributions from my community are my sole source of income. Getting a job would mean I would have to significantly reduce the amount of time, energy and effort I put into the development of Raindrop Chronicles. By being a Patreon supporter, you're helping me make my dream come true of continuing to work on this full time and bring the world of Raindrop Chronicles to life. See you next time for September 2021's Devlog Diary. But before you go, comment below and tell me what your biggest passions are. But there's a lot of and it was the